In 1966, Paul Davis saw an opportunity in property damage, emergency services, reconstruction, and remodeling. 50 years later, however, Mr. Davis' opportunity has turned into 310 independently owned franchisees and is now part of the First Service Corp.
One of the things that was different about Paul Davis Systems when we started was that I recognized that the key to what I was trying to do was not individuals, but insurers. And so at that point, I realized if I can put the interest of the insurer above my own, then they're going to like that. And if they like that, then I'm going to get more work. And I think that still holds true today. I think that this is God's will as for my life and the way this worked out. Because I woke up one morning and I thought, if I could sell a job for $1,000, which was 10 times as big as that first one before. So, and that was still more money than back in those days than it is today. But I thought if I could sell a job for $1,000 and get the work done and the materials bought for $650, I'd have $50 for expenses, $300 to live on. That's pretty simplistic when you come right down to it. So I thought, well, maybe I can do that. So I went and met a painter that I knew, and I said, if I were to sell a paint job for $1,000, would you furnish the materials and do the job for $650? He said, yeah, be glad to. Went to a carpenter, same response. Went to a drywall man, same response. Everyone I talked to said, yes, we'll do that. The first week, the adjuster that I knew pretty well called and said, have a fire over close to your house. Go by and look at it and see what it is. And I went by and I made an estimate, $12,000 and some odd cents, and called it. And he said, we'll start. That was the first sale. My first month, instead of being close to $5,000, turned out to be $22,000. My first 8 months were 200 and some thousand. And it was at that point that I began to think, maybe I'm into something here. So I began to do what I do a lot of, write. And one of my sayings has always been, write stuff down. Don't just try to keep it in your head. Write it down, and then that reinforces it for one thing. And then it's always there that you can go back and look at it as well. And so I began to recruit more and more adjusters, work with more and more adjusters, begin to bring other people in to work with me, so that 35%, 15% went to the person that sold the job and would manage it, and the 20% came to the company. And it just grew and grew and grew. About, I guess, 4 or 5 years into that, the secretary called me and she said, there's some men here from the wage and hour department. They want to talk to you. I said, wow. So anyhow, I went and talked with them, and they were explaining to me that I owed a lot of money because of all these people that I wasn't holding out Social Security and all that sort of thing. And I said, but they're subcontractors. They're doing this themselves. And he said, well, that's good. Show me your contracts. There wasn't no way I could do that because I didn't have one. But that was my next step. I paid about $10,000 and some for learning that lesson. But I got all the contracts put together, started using them. We all opened an office in Orlando. We used it in Orlando. One in, I guess Tampa was the next one, St. Petersburg, Gainesville, and so forth. And each one was challenged by the wage and hour people. And I would go down personally and meet with them, explain the contracts to them. There's 12 criteria you're supposed to meet the predominance of. So I would show it to them, and they would go away. He said, you ought to franchise this business. And I laughed. Didn't seem logical to me. But then the more I thought about it, I thought, well, if we've done all this other stuff, it's possible that I could do that as well. So I went and talked to an attorney and got a franchise agreement drawn up, very short little thing, wasn't a great deal to it. And then when I talked with my people that worked with me, one of them decided that they got the help from a pastor that he knew, and they bought the Tampa franchise. And then another guy bought the St. Petersburg franchise, and it just started to grow. And it continued to do that. One of our mantras is, we're not about doing things better. We're about doing things differently to get a better result. And that worked for us. The business world never reaches a point that it can't get better. And so if you can concentrate on integrity and honesty, and you can actually say what we said to insurers, we put your interest above all others, including our own.